campaign ended or
Hmm.
whatever. So we ended up, perfecting that because you could create for the first time, you could target people by their interests, what they're interested in. And that worked really well hand in hand with.
Welcome back to Young Smart Money with me, your host, Apple Kreider. Today we're sitting down with Tom Bell of Viralstyle to talk about his journey creating a print-on-demand company. Okay, so Viralstyle is a print-on-demand company. What that basically means is that if you, as a creator, as somebody who is good at designing things, creates a design, you can, through their platform, create these products, whether that's t-shirts, coffee mugs, and then people can go on their site, buy your products, and you get money for that. And this company, Viralstyle, has done a lot of business in the last few years since they have been around. Okay, we're talking over $300 million in sales throughout their platform, which is just crazy to think about. So they have a really sizable business going on over there. So I wanted to sit down with Tom Bell to talk about his experience getting there, because there were some twists and turns. He actually started off in real estate, so we're going to talk about real estate and wholesaling a little bit at the beginning of the episode. Then we're going to transition into how he actually became successful in this area and how you can carve out new areas for yourself, because at the time, print on demand, this is sort of a relatively new technology. I know a lot of you guys might be super used to seeing these things, but like print on demand technology is not super old. Okay, it definitely hasn't been around for more than 8 to 10 years. So we're going to sort of talk about how to find those trends that really do catch on, because some trends they really catch on and there's a lot of potential, like print on demand, and some trends just kind of burn out. So how do you find those trends that are going to have longevity and really be able to provide you with that sizable business? That is what we're going to be talking about in this episode today, among many other things. So without further ado, let's welcome Tom Bell to the podcast, wherever you guys are today, whether you are commuting to work, whatever you are doing while you're listening to this episode of Young Smart Money. Again, I'm extremely grateful for you for listening to the show. And without further ado, we're going to hop right on in to the interview. So sit back, relax, and enjoy this episode of Young Smart Money. All right, Tom, welcome to Young Smart Money. How are you doing today?
Doing amazing, man.
I'm so glad to have you here. So Tom, our listeners got to hear a little bit about you in the intro to this episode, but for those of them that aren't super familiar with who Tom Bell is and what you're currently working on right now, give us like a 60-second snapshot of where you're at right now.
So I own a company called Viralstyle. We are a print-on-demand e-commerce marketplace, and basically what that means is if you ever have an idea for a T-shirt, any type of apparel, accessory, wall art, you can come to my site and create and sell those products for free with no upfront cost or risk. And we handle all the back-end fulfillment, customer service, and basically anything that you'd like to do to sell physical products on Facebook, Instagram, things like that.
Hmm. Super cool. Super cool. Well, the first place I'd like to start with all these episodes, since we do have a younger listener base here, is flashing back in time and working our way up to the present. So talk to us about like those middle school and high school years for you. I'm always super fascinated by what my guests were doing in that time period. So were you entrepreneurial at all? Were you taking school seriously? What did that look like for you?
It's funny because I think back about it every once in a while, and I was definitely entrepreneurial. For example, like in high school or something like that. This is a little bit before your time, but basically we used to have CDs, and we'd have we had you know, um, music software like LimeWire or something
Yeah.
like that, and basically you'd download music to it. And what I would do is I would get uh, playlists from people. And I had like a stack of like blank CDs where I would go and download the music for them, and then burn it to the CD and bring it to them and stuff. And I'd sell them for like $10 or something. And back then it was like weed money. It was
Yeah.
like just a little bit of extra money to do whatever I wanted. Whereas now it's like I look back, it's like clearly I was running like a little mini business out of the classroom. um, you know, Things like that. It wasn't really, that's the one that like sticks out to me the most. But I did a lot of like small stuff like that. Like even I remember actually like in middle school, I would buy candy, uh, and I would sell like the individual pieces of candy. So I like, like it was like some crazy random shit like that. But yeah,
Yeah.
it
Just,
started
just finding
early.
ways to make it happen.
Yeah, yeah.
What was the draw? Was it just like to make that extra weed money, or was it like, did you have like
Yeah.
a,
Oh, to 100. I don't know about middle school. I don't know about middle school, but yeah, definitely in high school or whatever it was. But it's funny to think back.
so flashing forward a bit, did you end up going to college? Was that a decision that was like a big one for you?
No, never went to college, and I don't think it was necessarily. I was a terrible student.
Mm.
Yeah, it just wasn't for me. I really think I was like one of the worst students on the planet. Like I can think back. I don't think I ever did like one piece of homework. Like it
Wow.
somehow survived. Finessed my way through school. Like even to the point where I got into when I was in high school. I think I took Spanish 1 like 4 times. Like it
Wow.
was just I just didn't want to do it and just decided that wasn't what I was going to do. And then um, senior year came around. I was a year behind, obviously, uh, but there's a new principal that year, so I made it a point to like become really good friends with this guy because I was gonna need something from him eventually, and it ended up working out towards the end. Like I went the entire year, and about a month or two before we graduated, I went to him. I'm like, look, I'm not taking another year of high school. Okay. This is what we're going to do. I'm going to drop out and I'm going to go and get my GED in a week. I knew kind of like the process of like how it was going to work or whatever.
Mhm.
And I was like, hey, if I do this, I want to walk with my class and I want to do all the senior activities, you know, all the trips and shit. Like,
Yeah.
and he's like, you know what? You can do it in a week. Fine. I ended up going and taking the test. I got it done in 2 days. And so it was
Wow.
like it was a complete finesse. I got to do all the senior stuff. I was in school the whole time, so I never like missed out on anything with my friends and whatever. But yeah, that was a and then college. I just number one wouldn't have been able to afford it.
Mm.
I didn't have any like scholarships or anything like that, and I just what it wasn't for me. And yeah, so I basically like the whole college experience because all my friends went to college and there's a college in my city and everything like that. But I didn't actually have to go to classes. So
For sure. So the moral of the story is it's about who you know, not what you know, is what I'm hearing.
yes, that's exactly right.
I love it. So like, okay, so while your friends were in college, what were you doing? Were you working? Did you start a business? Like what that look like?
Oh, I was the typical 18-year-old man. I didn't have anything going on. It's funny because I think about it now. Um, man, I mean, there's like young guys like you, dude. I mean, just so far ahead of the game that when I was 18, all I cared about was when I was turning 21, dude.
Mm,
I didn't care about anything else. I just wanted to like have fun and drink whatever. There was no entrepreneurial like spark at that point. So I was just doing odd jobs, serving and stuff like that, and
sure.
nothing crazy. I ended up getting in some trouble, and it was kind of I call them like my lost years between like 18 and 21. Really, it's just
Mm,
like I was just in a cycle of bad, habits and getting arrested and then stuff like that. And then, you know, around 20, when I was 20, I was dating this girl. She got pregnant, so I became like a young father at 21. And that was really the now or never moment that I had. And I realized that, I'd never want to work for anybody ever again. I've had this huge problem with authority my whole life. And, and right before then, I had just been taken to like a seminar for a internet mark or no, I'm sorry, a real estate investing college. And they guys up on stage are talking about how much money they're making, whatever, and it did really kind of spark my interest. So I like decided right then and there that that's what I was going to do. I was going to figure out how to flip real estate and blah blah blah. I was a 20, 20 kid, no money or anything like
yeah.
that. But they were telling us how you could do it without money. And but of course that was like a $5,000 to $10,000 thing,
Mm,
and I just kind of picked one of the one or two of the little ways that they were talking about, and decided to just read books and to be self-taught and figure it out myself. And that's kind of the route I went. And I I took everything. I had my expenses or whatever. I had 6 months to go before my son was born, right?
mhm.
And I was like, I'm going all in on this. So I made my expenses. I went down to, because I was still living with my parents, I went down to just my cell phone. So for like 6 months, I didn't do shit but try and make this real estate thing happen.
Wow.
Cold calling people, ended up finding like a mentor from one of the phone calls, because he's like could see that I was serious and I was asking a ton of questions and whatever. And he ended up kind of taking me under his wing and kind of feeding me some leads, where that I could. He taught me how to look people up and whatever, and just kind of did it all as cheaply as possible, as all time invested stuff. Took me 6 months to get all the way to the point where somebody accepted an offer and I would go see the property. And I remember it to this day. Is like, I'm walking in the house like, like inspecting the house like I knew what I'm talking about. Okay, cool. This is sweet. What's this? And I in my head, I just know what I'm going to offer them, and I know like the
Yeah.
highest that I could do it, and that's all that mattered. So I kind of lowballed them, and they came back, and they ended up accepting the offer. And I'm like freaking out. So I go back to I'm like, okay, let me go write the contract. I go back to the car. I'm like, they accepted the offer. Oh my god. So anyway, so I write up the contract. I kind of like fucked up a couple of details, whatever, but I ended up getting the deal done and closing it. Probably a month after my son was born. I made like $1,500, and it doesn't seem like that much money at the time, or to me now, but like at the time, like $1,500, it wasn't necessarily the money. It was more of the fact that I got it done. And I
Yeah.
fucking knew I could do it, and I got it all the way to fruition. And once I had seen it all the way through, before the end of the month, I had another $10,000 in deals lined up that were ready to go. So it was just one of those things. Like, I realized then at that point that I could do anything, if I just kind of hustled and made my shit happen. But so I did that for about 4 or 5 years.
Wow.
So between 21 and 25 before I got into internet marketing and the real estate and the t-shirt game.
So what made you stick with it for that entire 6 month period? Because it sounds like it took a while for you to like get your first deal lined up. So were there ever times where you were like, man, I'm not feeling this, like I should quit, I should try something else? Or what made you stick with real estate?
Oh man, I had no choice. It was one of those things. Like like I said, I had all the resistance in the world, right? My parents, you know, you need to fucking stop this and get a job, dude. You need to
Yeah.
make money now because you are having a child. You need to fucking get this together. And I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna figure this out. Blah blah blah. And it was really just headstrong and authority. That the problem with authority, right? Then go
Yeah.
back to that. It was just one of those things. Like, I'm gonna prove everybody wrong and make this shit work.
Hmm. And it sounds like having that mentor was super impactful for you. Do you think that,
Oh,
do you think that that's an essential piece of the puzzle for young people who
one
are trying
hundred
to
percent,
find success? Okay.
100%. I got lucky with him because he's a nice guy. He's pretty well, you know, basically doing work for free. I mean, he was getting something out of it. He was getting half the. Oh, I didn't even tell you that. So he was any deal that I brought to the table at that point, he was getting half of the thing,
Hmm.
closing. So for that went on for, I think we had like a year deal, year and a half deal, where like anything that came through while he was teaching me how to do it, he would get half. And I was completely fine with that because I had nothing to give him,
Yeah.
And I feel like there's a lot of people out there that are like that. And a lot of people kind of necessarily go for the gurus and the courses and stuff because people have proven that they can do stuff, whatever. But I think there's just a lot of misinformation with that, because they're following anybody who has any good marketing tactics and stuff, whereas they need to follow people that kind of have a really good track record and things like that. But the mentorship piece of it, I could not have done it without him.
Mm.
So it's not even a question. Maybe I could have. It would have taken me a lot longer. And yeah, I think it's essential. You got to be surrounded, at least surround yourself with people that are already doing it, where you can ask questions, not necessarily like them giving you leads or whatever, but just if they know. I tell people this all the time. If you're trying really hard to get into this game with me and you're using my site and whatever, well, I'll give you all the resources you need. And if you have any specific questions about what it is that you're doing, I will answer them. Right? Like, what do you think about this design that I made? What do you think about this, niche that I'm going to get into? specific questions about Facebook ads or something like that. Okay, so here's the ad. What do you think about the copy? What do you think about the image? What do you think about, okay, so I spent $20 on this. I've only got 3 add to carts, no purchases, blah, blah, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Rather than like, how do I get started? Right?
Mm.
Like,
Yeah.
like the most general questions that like, I'm not going to waste my time answering that. And, where if you're out there really getting it and trying it, it's spending money and trial and error. Like if you come to somebody that's already doing it with the questions that are very specific, they're going to get answered more than likely for free with no like pushback at all.
100%. Like if I see someone who I think is willing to like take a step, if I take a step, then I'm gonna take a step with them. Like I'm gonna show them like the things that they need to do. If I have confidence they're actually gonna take action on that, because if they don't, then they wasted my time and I wasted their time because they didn't do anything with the information that I gave them. So I think if you can, like show people that you're serious about it and that you're actually gonna jump when they tell you to jump, like those are the people that I want to help out. And yeah, those are the people that I just help out for free. Like they ask me a specific question and I'm like, here's your answer. Like, this is what I would do if I was in that situation.
Right. Of course.
100%. So talk about that transition now from real estate into the world of sort of online and digital marketing.
Yeah. So there's a story behind that too, right? So, real estate was nice. It was good. It was a lot of, it was my first real, entrepreneurial thing that I did. And, I never really figured out how to scale it up though. I was making
Mm,
good money, between, 5 and 10 grand, like sometimes 20 grand in a month.
okay.
But then it would be like a bad month where I make 1 grand and I was just like, how do I fucking keep this up? Right. Because I had a lifestyle that I wanted.
Yeah.
And so I was always looking for something else. And I started a couple other companies and, different spaces. And I actually was always pretty successful at all of them, but, just couldn't figure out how to get them to stick, or just they didn't scale it fast enough. It didn't interest me after a while or whatever it is. So I let them go. I always had real estate to fall back on. And one of the things that happened was, I went to Ultra Music Festival one time,
Okay.
and it's like 2011, and this is like before EDM really kind of became mainstream. It was kind of one of those just random trips that I took with a random group of people, and so I was having a blast. I'm in the middle of this crowd, and I'm looking around. All these people are wearing crazy t-shirts, like different little sayings on them, neon colors, the whole thing, and I'm like, in my head, I'm like, somebody's selling them this shit, right?
Yeah.
So, and I was having so much fun. I was like, I could totally get into this, and I'm seeing dollar signs all around me. There's so many fucking people here that are wearing crazy shit. They're clearly bought this for today,
Yeah.
and you know what I mean. So, fast forward, when I get home and I'm doing a lot of research, and obviously, I started this company called Ready to Rage. And rage was like the big word back then. Nobody was
Hmm.
doing partying and anything like that. And what I did was I had to do t-shirt merchandising the old way, which is, find a supplier, which was American Apparel at the time. I had to get a corporate account with them. I had to buy everything up front, and buy enough of it to get a bulk discount. And there's a lot of guesswork involved, like how many smalls versus larges do I need?
Mm,
How many different styles do I want to offer? Like V-necks or regular shirts or tank tops. Out of those, how many different colors do I want to offer? Right. So I had to buy all that up front, all the blanks, and then so now I'm out like $1,000, $2,000 or something like that, and just blanks. Right. And I got to find a printer to print these designs that I've created on them. And I'm no designer. Okay.
yeah.
It was just like random words or whatever. It's kind of just like a shot in the dark. So now I've got all this inventory and I got to figure out a way to sell this stuff. And I'm out thousands of dollars. There's really no guarantee that I'm gonna be able to sell it too. So it's very backwards, high risk business to
Yeah.
get into for the first time. And, I was actually doing Shopify before it was cool, right?
Hmm.
This is like 2011 or something like that. And
Yeah.
I had an EDM blog that I would just post brand new music. Cause when back then, like there wasn't as many like DJs. So if a new song or new remix came out, like everybody was searching for it, and blah, blah, blah. And I kind of knew that. So I created this EDM blog and I just had the Shopify store in the background. So if somebody
Mm,
searched for they found my blog and then they kind of went to the store and I was starting to get some sales trickling from that. But I had individually pick and pack the shit and
Wow.
go to the UPS store or whatever, send it out. And so there's no print on demand back then. So, you know, I just thought that's what I was doing, but I was having, I was getting booths at music festivals, and I was really trying to build this brand. So I was throwing like parties at nightclubs and different like college parties that were going on and stuff, and really just having a blast, right? I was
Yeah.
selling a ton of these shirts, selling all the shirts really. Or it was like one or two like of the big designs that I had that were selling really well. And but it never became a real big money maker for me because
Sure.
of the issues of the for capital that were needed to actually, sell the product. So eventually had to let it go, which I eventually had to let it go, which, never really sat well with me because I was having so much fun, but I had a fucking son, and, I had to support everybody, and it just wasn't making money. I had to go back into real estate. Right.
Mhm.
So fast forward a couple years, print on demand becomes a thing. And I kind of saw uh, who is now one of my competitors become like the first one to release it. And how I came into it was one of my friends was building up Facebook fan pages, and selling products on them. And one of the things that he did is he created this Uncle Si Says fan page from Duck Dynasty,
Mm.
and he made this T-shirt about something that was country or whatever, and he made like $20,000 on the one shirt, the one design, and I was like, "Fuck!" Like, show me how you did that. Like fucking, that was all in after that, because then I realized what this company had solved was the capital issues that I had with that T-shirt company to begin with, and I at the time I don't think they knew what they had at the time, because they were like kind of focused on charities. They're
Mm.
thinking that was like their business model was give something tangible for their donation, blah blah blah, crowdfunding. And so me and a handful of other like guys got into full-time t-shirt selling, and we learned Facebook ads. And Facebook ads was on the very infancy, like with their ads platform. We're talking like before Pixels or anything like
Mhm.
that, where it's very like money in, money out. You better know your numbers, because
Yeah.
you're spending money, and if you're making money, good, spend as much as you can. And same with this platform, is very basic, like they campaigns where you do last 7 days, and whatever you sold in that 7 days went to print after the uh, campaign ended or
Mm.
whatever. So we ended up, perfecting that, because you could create, for the first time, you could target people by their interests, what they're interested in, and that worked really well hand in hand with t-shirts, because you could almost make a design for anyone in any niche or anything. And it was almost like anything that we put on a shirt and we put it up on Facebook. It was the first time those people had seen something that was targeted
Mm.
specifically for them. So we were able to like scale it up big time. We ended up selling like 150,000 products in 2 months. I think we profited around $2 million. And it was, that was kind of like, fuck, I've never seen any
Yeah.
money like that before. So we systemized what we were doing, and we became the number one affiliate on the site. And once that first round of like scaled campaigns, it kind of slowed down, and we were able to take a step back and look at what we were doing and what areas we could improve on. We realized we were leaving a lot of money on the table, because we weren't doing anything like upsells or cross
Mhm.
sells, or
Yeah.
we didn't even own the buyer data to like retarget them or anything like that. And so we went to the CEO of the company, and we're like, "Hey man, we're gonna have to, you know, these are the things that we need from you to be able to, continue to do business with you." And they had just done like their first like Series A or something like
Mm.
that, and raised like $20 million based on the sales that we had gotten. Some other big guys too, but we had built their business model for them. So um, we took a step back and realized, okay, we gotta do this on our own, because
Yeah.
that's the only way it's going to get done fast enough. And so that's kind of how it was born out of necessity, right? And that's kind of how a lot of things are done. And so we were building it for ourselves, because we were the top sellers. We knew what we needed, blah blah blah. But because of the timing of everything, and people in our industry was kind of a newer industry, so we were pretty well known on how successful we were at it. So when people found out we were kind of building something to go off on our own, they were very interested. And it was one of those situations where we had very rare situations where when we started a business, we had built-in business right away. We were able to scale to like $10 million in our first like 2 months. And we've been off to the races ever since. We've done over 300 million in revenue. We shipped over 2 million products to 180 countries last year. We have thousands of people all over the world who use our site to either make a living or like even make a killing, right? So very fortunate in being able to do that and watch it scale, and it's been a lot of fun.
Absolutely. So what do you think it was that set you and your business apart from like all the other entrepreneurs out there who are trying to start things but aren't seeing that amount of success in their business? Like, what are the differentiators?
Well, there's two ways that I could have done that, right? So we decided to build a platform. So that means that it was our effort wasn't really what was driving the business. It was just catering to other people. So there's an opportunity. We saw an opportunity in the marketplace to launch this thing, and we decided to go all in on it, right? So we were able to get some market share pretty quickly and kind of scale it from there. A lot of the guys that you and I know are really just internet marketers doing it for themselves, and they're it's directly related upon the input into the business is the output that they're getting, right?
Yeah.
So we figured out a way to simplify what everybody else was doing and give them a way to do it at scale.
Hmm.
So I think that's the biggest differentiator, is that we decided to get out of the actual marketing side of the game and get into the business side of the game and create something for everyone.
I love that. So do you think, because you guys are one of the first movers in this space, correct me if I'm wrong, but do you think it's important to be one of the first people to the party? Do you think that is really one of the things that gave you guys a leg up, or do you think that's not so important?
I definitely think that was a big factor. We do have other competitors, but they
Sure.
came in around the same time as us as well. But it's definitely one of those situations where you have to capitalize on the opportunity as it comes. And the timing of that was very well done too. So I do think that is a huge factor. If you find something new that's starting to really kind of emerge, if you go all in on that, which is like what you see with other things, like the guys who got into Instagram really early, right? They're the
Mhm.
ones that are kind of leading the pack right now. Not necessarily building your own thing, but if there's a new opportunity that you see people are really kind of gravitating towards, and you can kind of think long term, um, and you become an expert in whatever that is early on, then you become the guys who are around that are bigger later. And a lot of the guys who started in print on demand, they're the ones that are teaching all the other stuff now, because they got into the info space or whatever. That was another thing I haven't done, is really get into the info space. But the guys are teaching the drop shipping and Shopify and stuff. They all started in print on demand because you're really easy for them to learn Facebook ads and things like
Mhm.
that. They could make some money doing it, and then they found other opportunities, and so on and so forth.
So when it comes to like going all in on these new opportunities, how do you personally think about like the fact that there are so many new things coming up every single day? Like if you look at like the top 100 apps in the App Store, they're always changing. There's always new like trends emerging. So when you're going all in on one of these things, how do you personally think about like not going all in on something that's just going to be like a fad that lasts for a few months, but instead finding something like print on demand that's lasted for years?
Um, I really don't know, man. Because there's ways to make money with everything. I
Yeah.
mean, that is
Yeah.
the truth. Um, it's just what worked for me, right? So, and I can't say that I wouldn't find something else, because I probably would have, but it was just capitalizing on the opportunity that was in front of me, and then you know going all in. And that's kind of how all of my businesses have been in any industry that I got into, is that I kind of immersed myself in what it took to become successful at that. And then I wasn't afraid to fail
Hmm.
because I had done it a few times before, but and a lot of that was because I had a backup plan. I had something that I was good at. I had something that I could, plug back into and make money with. So I wasn't really afraid to venture off and try and find something else. So I would say, definitely do that as well. Like if you're really trying to become an entrepreneur, I would quit my job right away or anything like that. Spend your extra time trying to figure out what it is that you want to do, and stick to one thing. And
Yeah.
I find that a lot of people, you hear this all the time, it's regurgitated, but everybody has that shiny object syndrome. And there's always like that special trick that somebody's trying to sell or whatever. It's not really that big of a deal. Like, just find the one thing you want to try for it, go after it for 6 months. If it doesn't work out, find something else.
Mm. That's so true. And like what you said, man, like mitigating your worst case scenario is so important because like if you always know that like you can fall back on real estate or you can fall back on your 9 to 5 job, like that allows you to be a little bit more risky, to like really go all in on things because you don't have to worry that like, oh, if this fails, like I have nothing. Like you still have those safety nets to fall back on. And especially
Right.
as young people, like we have, like speaking from a place of privilege, of course, like I have so many safety nets I can fall back on. Like if I like lose all my money and like go completely bankrupt, like my parents can still like support me, and like I'm still at an age where like if I need to move back home, I can, because like
Right.
I just have all these safety nets, and like so many young people do as well. And I think we're just not taking advantage of those, and we're not playing as risky as we could be.
Right. Exactly right. I mean, like I said, man, it blows my mind. Like, some of the younger cats that are really getting after it and becoming successful at such young ages. And I can't even imagine what that's like, like even from the first half of my 20s, like I did something a lot of people have never done before, will never do, is like flip real estate. And I actually did it with no money down, like no money and stuff like that. All the stuff they talk to you, like in the courses, like I actually did that shit. But I was never as successful as some of the guys that I see that are younger than that, doing now. And I think a lot has to do with what they grew up with, right? So
Hmm.
like we didn't have social media. I mean, we had the basics of social media back
Yeah.
then, but nobody was using it for business. I tell people now, like, you know, my my age group was like did all the trial and error. So like we figured out what was and wasn't cool on Facebook, and then Instagram came around or whatever. And now that the younger generations grown up only in the social media, you know, years.
Yeah.
And now they have this like infinite tool with like all these like like drop shipping, for example, like being able to sell physical products from China on a fucking website, like with no money down, like that's ridiculous, and concept in itself is like ridiculous to be able to do that. And if I would have had like, print on demand back in, 2011 or whatever it is, like all these things are available to you and it's so easily accessible and relatively cheap to get started with no risk. Like the opportunities are fucking astronomical compared to like what we had when I was 18 years old, right? So, you know, it's all relative,
Mm.
right? So, but the principles are all the same. If you want to get it, get after it, and
Mm.
then that you could see the guys who've actually committed to it and are successful because of it.
Precisely, precisely. So like what are you doing now as far as like viral style goes? Like what are your responsibilities?
So I am technically the CMO. Like we do like a co-CEO role here
Okay.
of me and my business partner. And my main driver is to move the needle, right? So I got to find new opportunities for us. I have to find I go out on the face of the company, so I go and do speaking events and I travel. We open an office in Vietnam. We have a large user base over there, so I go to Vietnam twice a year to go speak with our VIPs and take them out and the whole thing. And having boots on the ground over there because they're 12 hours ahead was a big
Mm.
play for us. It helped us a lot. Um, and really it's just finding opportunities and putting them in place and working with the team to um, like the marketing team or design team to get the styling down and things like that for the company. And so that's what I mainly do is I interface with clients and I find new opportunities.
Hmm. What are some of the avenues that you're using to locate and like dive in on these new opportunities? Like where are the places you're looking for like inspiration and stuff?
Well, so right now our main focus is trying to get into, maybe even the influencer space and
Hmm.
stuff. So a lot of these networking events that I go to, a lot of the guys that are pretty big in the industry, they work with influencers in some capacity, and it's really just going and uh, finding the people that get you in contact with them, because a warm contact is always easier than just
Yeah.
DMing somebody. So that's one of the things I'm doing. I'm also trying to figure out, ways that we can integrate with existing companies. So, for example, Fit Tea, which is a pretty well-known brand, we're going to be adding our print-on-demand capabilities to the back end of their sales. So, like for example, they sell tea, right?
Hmm.
So when somebody purchases their tea, and we're going to hit them with an upsell to buy a coffee mug so they can
Huh.
drink it out of the tea. So it's like an obvious,
Yeah.
easy upsell that, but it'll be like Fit Tea branded. It'll have a little funny saying on it or whatever. So things like that, where we can just plug in our existing operations into something that, could easily make us both money. We could do that at scale. So those are the two kind of things that we're focusing on at the moment. We're always, trying to acquire new sellers and educate them in the business, because there's a learning curve in this business. And one of the things I'm doing is creating a course for the first time. So I'm going to be getting into info space a little bit, because I think I have some insider knowledge that, a lot of people can't teach,
Oh yeah.
because I've seen every single existing campaign that's been successful on Viralstyle for the last 5 years. So I know, what sells, what doesn't, the trends that are going on right now and things like that. So,
Hmm. You want to give us a little preview of like what some of the biggest trends are right now, or like what's working for people in that space?
well, you know, our space is really niche driven.
Yeah.
So whether it's somebody that's built a big Instagram, Facebook page with that specific niche, and now they're just running organic traffic. Again, the interest targeting is still a thing, but it takes a little bit of time to build up that audience, right?
Yeah.
So if you have a really awesome design, it might just fly off the shelf and you're in the races. But if you're trying, to recreate an existing design that's been sold before and trickle in sales so that you can build your custom audience, and then have Facebook kind of start doing the work for you to find your own audience, and then it kind of ramps up from there, right? So that's one big thing, is when people are building existing audiences, whether it's a meme page or whatever, then they build it up to a couple 20-30,000 followers, then they can start doing merch. So merchandising is really like the biggest thing that I can push right now, is just
Hmm.
doing merch. And then catching trends. Um, that is the one thing I think that, I still kind of jump on every once in a while if I see something about to go nuts. I see like a lot of people talking about it on Facebook and Instagram or whatever. I know there's a passionate hot button issue or whatever it is, then you can kind of jump on that wave and get a couple hundred, couple thousand sales, depending on how you frame it into a t-shirt design. Um, I'm trying to think of an example recently.
I mean,
Um,
there's stuff in politics all the time.
I was gonna say Trump's too easy though. I mean, it's like I was that. I mean, campaign Trump is about to come back, dude. I mean, the guy says something funny like every time he talks, so you can almost create a design for everything he says.
Yep.
So it's just that's an easy one. There's a lot. There's some uh, because of the Cambridge Analytica thing that happened. So there's a little bit of friction getting political ads some friction getting political ads up and things like that. But if once you do, you're off to the races. So that's a really good example of the
Mhm.
type of stuff, because it's fair game. and you can play both sides.
Yeah.
If you have no political affiliation, who cares? You can play both sides.
That's the truth, man. That's the truth. I got a buddy who was selling bumper stickers during the last few elections, and he's like, "Yeah, man, I don't choose a side. I just sell both kinds of bumper stickers," and he's making thousands of dollars like
Of
on the
course,
daily, just
of
selling bumper
course.
stickers. All right. Well, Tom, I do have some questions I'd like to ask all of my guests before we wrap up the show. Are you feeling ready for those?
All right, let's go.
All right. The first one is what is something that genuinely has you excited right now? This could be in your business, in the wider realm of like print on demand, but what's something that has you fired up?
Um, well, I mean, as of today, one of the things I'm fired up about is cryptocurrency kind of coming back.
Oh yeah.
I had some investments that I did in early 2017 that I did really well with, and then December 2017 it peaked, and I didn't get out
Mm.
like I should have. And everybody was in the hold game, right? I fucking held it. I held everything. I didn't touch it. Every month it went down for a whole year, and then got to December, and finally it started to bounce back, and we're doubling up, tripling up on the daily. So that's got me a little excited because I was like, I made the right choice. And finally, I was, because I got in so early. I was like, even at the bottom, I was still like break even, but like I
Yeah.
didn't get into that to be break even,
Yeah.
and I was like 100, like whatever, a couple $100,000 up in that December when it was peaking. So I should have gotten out right then and just bought back in. But so I'm excited about that. That's one thing. Um, I got a trip. I travel a lot, man.
Yeah.
That's my thing, dude. So that is one of the benefits of running and owning a company. Majority of my travel is done for business.
Mm.
So it's almost free. But this one, I've got a nice group of about 20 people. We're going to St. Lucia. It's gonna be a lot of fun. So those are two things I'm excited about right now.
Super exciting, man. So,
Yeah.
do you have any habits that have served you particularly well, either in your business or lifestyle?
My biggest I'm a big proponent on networking, right?
Mm.
Aligning yourself with people that are smarter than you. Like my business partner is brilliant. Like he's just a really smart guy, and he's complete opposite of me, which is
Mm.
something else I would like to say. Find somebody that is like complementary to your weaknesses,
Yeah.
right? So whereas I am the excitable marketing, face, whatever. I got all these ideas. I'm ready to go, and he's very analytical and very cautious, right? So we it becomes a lot of really frustrating sometimes because I want to move fast and break shit, whereas he's like, well, how he's really breaking it down to what we need to look at when it comes to the business. But you know that there can be some pushback, but I respect him in that, where I always ask him his opinion of things before I kind of do stuff and things like that. So that's one thing. It's just find networking, and you never know who you're going to meet at an event. So I always go to as many events as I can, and I network with as many people as I can. And I'm kind of a people person in general. So that's one of my bigger traits, is the fact that I can build relationships and figure out ways to work together, whether it's me referring them to somebody else or whatever it is. So.
Mm. I love it. So, are you consuming any content at the moment? Whether that's books, audiobooks, podcasts, YouTube channels, any content you're taking in?
Yeah, so I was a pretty avid reader when I was getting into the game or in entrepreneurship, and I kind of fell off. And I think it was really just the fact that I didn't like reading necessarily.
Mm.
But I found out about Audible about a year and a half ago, and I kind of got into buying audiobooks instead, and it's just easier for me to like consume the content while I'm doing mundane things like working out or whatever. I go to the gym like once or twice a day, and I can listen to that instead of music, right? So I can at least be learning at the same time. What I found recently is that uh, I need both the visual and the audio. So what I'll do is I'll listen to it once on audio, and I'll kind of try to remember all the points, and I'll listen to it again, and I'll take notes, and
Hmm.
I'll write down all the bullet points. I'll have like a fucking full uh, cliff notes like of all the important stuff that they said, like word for word kind of stuff, and
Hmm.
it really works well for me. One of the books I'm listening to right now is called Scaling Up, and it's
Yeah.
about how to scale your businesses from 10 to 50 to 50 to 100 employees and beyond, right? So all the different things that existing companies, that it's based on um my gosh, I can't believe I forget his name. Who's the guy, the most successful businessman of all time? Like, come on.
Warren Buffett.
Now, back in the day, did the oil company and
Oh, Rockefeller.
not Rockefeller.
Carnegie.
Anyways, Carnegie, Dale Carnegie.
Yeah.
Okay, so and it's about his business systems. Maybe it is Rockefeller. I don't know. One of those guys, one of those badasses back in the day, and their business systems and how they were able to scale, their companies and the management that needs to be in place, and how one person needs to be invested in the one area and blah blah blah. So it's a really interesting book, and it's something that we're like focusing on this year, is like building out our C-suite of executives and how to scale the different systems in place, and putting those systems in place in the companies so that it basically hums.
Mm.
Whereas when you're growing a business, especially in the beginning, you're wearing a lot of hats. You're in that hustle mode where everybody's working fast and trying to do as many things as possible while you're scaling the business. Whereas after it becomes an established company, you need to start putting management in place of people that are like smarter than you, that don't need management, and kind of are free thinkers and can bring ideas to you and things like that. So that's what that book's about. That's kind of something we're moving into right now. And I like to learn about stuff before I get into it, so that I'm not relying on anyone else to kind of teach me how to do it.
Sure. So is there anything in your business that you choose not to scale? So a quick example of what I mean is, like, I send out a lot of video messages on Instagram to like individual people, whether that be new followers, people I want to connect with.
That's how
Um,
we met.
yeah, exactly. So is there anything that you do in your business that you keep that personal, like Tom Bell touch to, and that you choose not to scale?
um I mean, if you're working with a private client, like a big client, obviously you want that personal touch.
Sure.
But beyond that, I try and separate myself, because
Hmm.
there's one of me,
Yeah.
right? And there's thousands of them. So if I, they know if they can't get something done through, you know, client services or whatever, they'll come to me and complain, because they know I can, push it along. But for the most part, I try and separate myself from that stuff. Unless, again, I'm going to these events and I'm working with bigger clients that are, need that personal touch.
For sure, that definitely makes sense. Now, Tom, I've really been enjoying the massive amounts of value that you've been bringing on this episode today. Where can our listeners go if they've been enjoying all the information you've been sharing and they want to follow up with you and learn more about Viralstyle?
Sure. Well, I'm on Instagram more than anything. So it's at Tombell_viral style is my handle. If they're interested in learning more about viral style in general, they can go to viralstyle.com. Just sign up. It's free. We have an academy there that they can go through and learn the 101s and the 102s of getting started in print on demand in general. It kind of goes through the process of coming up with an idea and simple design and basics of Facebook ads and things like that. So if they're interested in that, they can do that. It's free as well. All you have to have is an account to do that. And that's at sellers.viralstyle.com. And, keep a lookout for what I got coming out. I got some cool stuff in the works right now that I think it's a little bit more updated. The original piece was done by one of our top sellers. He did over $1 million on our site at the time, and if they want to hit me up on Facebook, they can as well. And we have a seller support group and on Facebook as well.
Awesome. I'll be sure to link up all those in the show notes for this episode as well for all of our listeners
Sure.
to check out. Now, Tom, do you have any last closing thoughts, words of wisdom, or anything you want to wrap the show up with here today?
We talked a little bit about, mindset and mentality of entrepreneurship. And I think, in closing, I think we should touch back on that, there's never a perfect time to get started. In my situation, it was, a necessity, right? And you got to find those motivations, however you get motivated, you need to figure that out, right? For me, it's when my back's against the wall and I have no other choice. And that's the same for a lot of people as well. If you're comfortable what you're doing, you're not going to be able to move forward. So get uncomfortable, go find something that excites you, that you think you'll do really well at, and get after it, man. Like, don't sit on your hands. Find out. You don't necessarily need someone to teach you how to do it. There's plenty of free information out there, and if you really want it, you can get it.
Straight up. Thank you so much for your time, man. I really appreciate it. I appreciate you spending it here on Young Smart Money. It has been a pleasure.
Hey, man, thanks for having me.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Young Smart Money. If you want to support the show, you can do so in 3 different ways. You can subscribe, you can leave me 5, and you can share this episode with a friend. To subscribe, all you got to do is click the subscribe button on Apple Podcasts. To leave me 5, all you got to do is scroll all the way down to the bottom of the podcast page for Young Smart Money and click on the write a review button. And to share with a friend, all you got to do is screenshot yourself listening to this episode, post on your Instagram story, tag me, and I will be sure to repost it in my Instagram story as well. I love giving you guys some attention who are listening to the show. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you in the next one. Real quick, just launched a new project called the Online Course Examiner, basically the Yelp of online courses. It is blowing up lately, onlinecourseexaminer.com. Check it out.